Hello, my name is Dr. David Plerdet. I'm a nutrition scientist and exercise scientist, and I'm the founder of the Plerdet Institute, a world leader in science-based weight loss. Today I have a special guest and friend, Cindy Tercio. Thank you so much for coming in.
Glad to be here.
What a pleasure. So as you know, if you've ever watched an interview with me, the hero of the story is Cindy. Cindy, something very special about you that is true is that she's maintained a nearly 90-pound body fat loss for 17 years. How amazing is that? And I remember when we first met. So just a few things about our hero today. She is incredibly well educated. She has a master's degree. She's a professional teacher. She's since retired, right? Mm-hmm. And in a happy marriage with George, some incredibly awesome kids who now have produced how many grandchildren?
4.
4 grandchildren.
Right now.
Incredible. So you're living your best life,
Yes,
aren't you?
absolutely.
So thank you really for being here and taking the time. Could we talk a little bit about the pain you felt 17 years ago before you started?
Well, the pain was incredible. In fact, the first day I called you was on Easter Sunday because I had gotten dressed to have our Easter celebration, and I was so sad and so just, oh gosh, can't think of the word I'm looking for. Preoccupied with how bad I felt, and I couldn't get dressed how I wanted to get dressed and entertain the way I wanted to entertain. And so I called you on Easter Sunday knowing fully well that you would not be there. But I had to make that call. It made me feel better. It made me feel like I was taking a step. And you called me back the next day, Easter Monday. I came in that afternoon, and that was the beginning.
So on April 10th of 2006, you came in for a half-day science-based weight loss assessment. We placed you in a device called the BOD Pod, which is the most accurate instrument in the world for measuring human body composition. The BOD Pod identified that your muscles and bones weighed 112 pounds, while your body fat was as high as 140 pounds. Your total weight was 252 pounds, and this was the most you had weighed in your entire life. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So there was some pain. You know, you talked about feeling embarrassment, and I think you alluded to just feeling uncomfortable in your clothing.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how this subject, this problem, was getting in the way in your life, in your personal life?
It was very hard to always feel like possibly I would be the largest woman in the room. I would go to PTA meetings and all the other mothers looked so much slimmer than me and prettier than me. I wouldn't want to go with my kids to the beach because how could I put a bathing suit on? Go sledding with the kids because snow pants, not for me. You know, so it really affected what kind of mom I was and how involved I was. I was a good mother, but I didn't do all the things my husband thankfully did. Took the kids and did all the fun stuff. So I was basically living on the sidelines watching, which was hard.
And how did you hear about the Institute? Do you remember?
Yes, I was walking with a friend of mine, getting exercise like I should, and I'm going as fast as I can, and she said, I can't go that fast, I'm not supposed to, I'm supposed to walk slowly. I said, that's ridiculous. And that she told me about you. And after I got over the ridiculous, I came and saw you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't ridiculous.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's true. You had historically been over-exercised, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. So if you don't mind, could we talk a little bit about the learning points? You know, one of the things that happens for people when they come in for that half-day assessment is we talk about a problem that unless you're in a lab, you really can't see, and that's that there's a suppression of an enzyme in your fat cells that were preventing your body from mobilizing fat. And what we had learned, audience, was that if your fat cells are in suppression, can you have any substantial fat weight loss? No, you can't. And so I taught you about nutrition, and to be more specific, we really delved into chemistry. We talked about things that we can't smell, things that we can't taste, things that we can't detect in everything that you were ingesting, foods and fluids and pills and capsules and tablets and powders and shakes and drinks and bars.
Right.
And you were stepping into suppression. And typically we reverse that enzyme suppression in how many days? Do you remember?
3.
3 days. And so within less than a week, you would come back into the lab, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yes.
We saw the fat cells in a constant state of degradation of the triglyceride, which is the chemical name for storage fat, and the subsequent mobilization of fatty acids. And then we coupled that with an exercise prescription, which you kind of queued up our audience, that was not what you thought, right?
No.
We were able to isolate your muscles and how they were contracting, so they only utilized fatty acids. And by sparing the glycogen, what did you not crave?
The sugar.
Sugar. Yeah, it wasn't hard, right?
Right.
The exercise wasn't hard.
Right.
And we've been doing this for how long now?
17 years.
17 years. You've maintained approximately a 90-pound body fat loss. That, I will just say to the audience, this might be the most important interview I've ever done. Because how many people do you know that have lost 90 pounds, maintain it for nearly 20 years?
I don't know anyone who's had that.
Exactly, that's my point. And you're an inspiration.
Well, thank you.
How has having a chef helped you in your journey?
We're having these on-program recipes that we can make at home or
Right.
through the chef. It opens the world of culinary, enjoyment.
Yeah.
And you need that.
And how important is it to actually enjoy what you're eating to
So
stay on the plan, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's actually easy.
Yes, otherwise and I know in the past from when I deprived myself before this program, I would then binge on something I shouldn't have.
100%.
Too much.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. So if, from a clinical perspective, if you're following the program, are you hungry?
No.
No. And if you're on program, are you craving stuff? Like, yeah, I mean, it's just not hard, right?
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's pivot and talk about the parallel of a weight loss journey to a sobriety journey. We've connected in many ways. One of the ways is in a spiritual aspect. And how has the sobriety piece, because so many of us, when we're in pain, the way we've coped with pain is numbing ourselves to oblivion with sugar or chips or crackers or cookies or alcohol or whatever it might be. And for many of us, though, food has been a go-to drug. And it's not moral, right? The wisest teacher who ever lived said it's not what goes into our mouths that makes us bad, it's what comes out of our mouth. So we don't food shame anybody, but for a lot of us, food's been a drug. How has that element of the program helped you?
I think the accountability of coming in to see you weekly, or as time goes on, if you're more in a maintenance, and it doesn't have to be weekly, but the accountability of coming in, getting on the scale, getting in the bod pod, just keeping yourself in check,
Right.
which I think what you're talking with sobriety, people have to just have somewhere to go for support, and
Yeah.
this is a lot of support.
Yeah, and I think for me, as your quote-unquote sponsor, and yes, I'm your doctor, I've been kind of a glorified cheerleader, cheering you along and saying, hey, you can do this, and great job today. And it's very personal, isn't it?
Yes, nothing more personal.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Let's talk about your success in a little bit greater detail. I'd like to go ahead and pull up your before and after pictures. Let's take a look at the full front shot. On the left, we see where you were when we first met. And on that day, that fateful day in April of 2006, you weighed 252 pounds. Your muscles and bones weighed 112 pounds. Your body fat at that point was 140. On the right, we see over a 90-pound fat loss. And what do you notice about the contrast?
Well, I'm much happier. Much happier. And I see me. I see my facial structure. I have collarbones. I just see so much of what was buried underneath that 140 pounds of fat.
Right. You actually show muscular definition and a symmetry in your physique. But I think you hit it on the head. I think the coolest thing about the contrast is the joy.
Oh, I've always thought that when I lose weight, I'll be happy. And I don't think it's the weight loss that makes you happy. It's all the things you do because you've lost the weight.
Right.
You start enjoying life.
Yes.
Because you're not hiding inside that body that you're ashamed of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the side view. What do you notice in the contrast?
I think definition in my midsection, my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of.
The circumference of your waist is so dramatically smaller. Your hips, the circumference of your hips and your thighs. When we reverse the enzyme suppression, there's not a single square inch not affected. Every part of your body was affected by controlling of the fat cell. It's an amazing transformation. Let's look at the rear view. And what do you notice?
Much narrower. I always carry my weight in my hips and thigh area much narrower. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like really to a certain extent you're not even recognizable, you know. Let's take a look at your face contrast. This I think might be my favorite part of the before and afters. What do you see?
I can see, like I said, the structure of my face.
Yeah, your facial features
Yeah.
had no definition.
Right.
And now, you know, your facial features and really your whole body, there's a defined structure, and it kind of takes you back, doesn't it?
I cried the first time you did a before and you did the after, and you showed me the before and after. I cried because I never saw myself as big as I was. I don't think we always, and I don't think I see myself now either. Sometimes I see myself as that person before, but I don't think I ever saw myself as big as I was. And my kids didn't either. They thought you did something to the picture.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, because when you love somebody, you don't see, you know.
Right.
So.
You're an inspiration.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'd like us to think about the audience right now. There's a man or woman out there, they're watching this interview and they've never heard of the Plurday Institute. They've just heard your story. What would you say to him or her to encourage them to pick up the phone and take the first step?
I'd say from my experience, I've tried every diet out there. My next step, if this was not successful, was going to be a gastric bypass or some sort of surgery. And my wish for everyone is to pick up the phone and call you, because I only wish I had done it sooner. I was 45 when I started. I wish I had called way earlier. But if you are struggling, this is, I can't speak more highly of this program than I have. And it's livable. 17 years in.
17 years. And let me pull out my ugly fat replica. So you've lost more than 18 of these, and you've maintained that nearly 90-pound fat loss for 17 years. You are an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a great job today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, our audience, for taking time out of your schedule today to listen to this conversation. I hope you found it to be very encouraging. And I'll leave you with this. You don't have to struggle anymore. Pick up the phone and call 844-756-8733. We'd like to take you on a new path to better health, joy, and self-respect. Thank you so much. Hope to meet you soon.